Hey guys, welcome to your first screencast on research design. This is just to support your research methods topic. So the aims and objectives of today is for you guys to understand the different research designs associated with research methods. By the end of this session, you'll be able to outline, describe and explain the different research designs associated with research methods. So first of all, what are research designs? Well, a number of research designs are used within sport and exercise science. A research design is the overall structure of your research. Some of the common research designs you need to understand are experimental, cross-sectional, case studies, longitudinal and comparative research. These are some of the ones that we're going to go through in this session now. The first is experimental. Now, experimental research is to look at the effect of an independent variable on a dependent variable. To use this research design effectively, you need to understand the terms independent and dependent variable. The independent variable affects the dependent variable. For example, if an athletics coach wants to find out if her lower back flexibility training is benefiting the athlete's high jump performance, she has asked potentially you as a researcher to have a little look at the topic for her. The coach would want to find out whether flexibility affects performance, so therefore flexibility would be an independent variable and performance is the dependent variable because it's dependent on the flexibility training. The second is cross-sectional, and this research involves using a range of participants with different backgrounds, ages, genders from the overall population. If you can remember a few weeks back, we did a study on to see how personality affects curriculum choice, and we questioned 190 students. Those 190 students were a cross-section of the Manchester College student base. Another example could be if you wanted to look at preferences in team sports or individual sports in people in the UK, cross-sectional research would be used. This would allow you to obtain opinions from a range of people. You would send your participants a survey-type question or questionnaire that allowed them to say which type of sport they preferred. Then you could produce some descriptive statistics for the results of the study. For example, 73% of men prefer team sports, 20% of the men prefer individual sports, and 7% of men have absolutely no preference whatsoever. The next is case studies. Now, case study research is where you investigate a particular phenomenon, for example, an individual or a team over a long period of time. It takes into account the development of the area of investigation over time and the environment in which the research resides. For example, to investigate the psychological effect of injury at different stages of injury and recovery, a case study design would be suitable. It allows you to investigate one person over a period of time and at different times throughout the stages of their injury. This means you can draw conclusions relating to that individual and suggest these conclusions as directions for future research on a larger scale. A second example would possibly be to investigate the different stages of team cohesion if you looked at a psychological perspective. If a newly team is formed or lots of new players enter an existing team, a psychologist may perform a case study on how well the team works together through psychological stages. The next design is called a longitudinal design, and this type of research involves measuring the same variable over a long period of time and requires greater resources than the other types of research, so be careful when approaching this design. Longitudinal research is useful if you want to examine the developmental characteristics of a group, for example, to investigate factors associated with talent identification or talent development in a particular sport. Longitudinal research would be a good option. It allows you to focus completely on developmental issues over an extended period of time, and sometimes some researchers do this over the lifetime of somebody. There's lots of cancer researches that are longitudinal and see how the effective sort of chemotherapy and things like that improve life expectancies. Last but not least, there's the comparative research study. In comparative research, the researcher compares two or more things with the aim of discovering something about one or all of them. For example, if you wanted to see if there were any similarities between boys' and girls' opinions on hooliganism in football, you could use a comparative design. And there's all sorts of different things you could compare. You might compare the population and how they perceive, say, Manchester United compared to Manchester City. There's some examples you could also use.